And we have a kind of a customer question and answer type of session today for you guys.
Okay.
So, first off, as always, what we got going on around here?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, we are sorting a lot of leather from various sources. We're making arrangements to have to do a new and improved thing to our oil tan line. We've got a lot of stuff going on with that. There's a lot in the works. There's a lot of new things coming in. We've managed to establish some new programs with some relatively new, I should say, relatively new people or companies that provide leather and various services related to the leather industry so that we can provide different and good products to our customers. One thing, since you've asked, I really am seeing, at least I think I'm seeing, a lot of things change in the leather industry. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but it seems like there's an awful lot of people that, it used to be where you had to buy a full side of leather. Well, Springfield Leather made it so that you no longer have to do that. But there's a lot of companies that and customers that do want to buy a full side of leather or a half a side of leather or whatever. But there's an awful lot of customers seeming to come into existence that want to buy very small pieces of leather, like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 square feet or something like that. And they're willing to pay the price that it is required to be able to provide those things. And they're willing to buy a variety of those things so that they can, I guess, take a better assessment of what they can produce to make money with their business, because there's more and more people that are trying to do that. They're trying to start a little home business, go to craft shows, do whatever they're doing, but they don't want to necessarily spend a whole bunch of money on one leather to see if it works. They'd rather try smaller things. And so I think our working at gearing toward that has been pretty exciting. Mm-hmm. And results here in the store are proving that that's a good thing and it works.
And I think even those, like the small amounts to get people started. We had a customer yesterday from Arkansas come in, and she started out with small quantities of leather, and we filled up 3 carts yesterday. Kevin and I helped her. I had gathering helper, and we sent them back to Arkansas with a trunk full of leather.
Well, it was $6,000 worth of leather at wholesale prices. That's a lot of stuff. And that was a young girl that basically just started out making a few things out of a few pieces.
Yeah, earrings.
Liked them, and so, you can't beat that. And the reason I was almost late, not quite, was we just loaded up, 1,200 feet of leather for a guy who is doing a laser product, and he's selling them to places like truck stops and what have you. And he's got a pretty neat product. But you know how he started was he thought he might want to get into leather. So he comes in here and he's got an idea of what he wants to do. And he buys some small pieces to try out for this, that, and the other thing. And over the course of about a year, now he's buying 1,200 feet of leather because he's figured out what works. And that's the key.
Well, that kind of leads into, so these questions aren't really any specific order, but one of the questions that I thought of was, how do people make money off of the bundles? That's why the bundles were started so that people can get a variety of different types of leather instead of buying one, large quantity at a time.
Well, you kind of hit it on the head, and really that's the whole purpose of a leather bundle. And by the way, so that people know it, we're in the process of slowly but surely revamping and redoing a great many of our bundles. And the reason is much connected with what you said. When they buy a bundle, they get it. The leather price is cheap. It's just inexpensive. The price they're paying for is allowing us to move some leathers that we need to move, and at the same time include some really good leathers that they normally probably would never buy or never see. A good chance they'd never see it. but we have some because we got 10 sides as a sample or 5 sides as a sample, and we can cut that up and include it in a bundle. And somebody along the way is going to look at that piece and they're going to make something out of it and say, wow, that's really cool. I made 3 of those and they sold immediately. And can you get more of that? Well, yes, we can. And that's what the bundle does, is it allows us to provide that service to customers and give them that ability. Cool.
Well, Rusty, you got any updates? I know we've got some. I think the city or the architect said we're good to go.
Everything is rolling well, slowly.
Okay.
No, we're sitting pretty good as far as the construction aspect of it goes. Any kind of a remodel that you do, you're just going to open up a can of worms, and that really is what it's been. And we knew it was going to, and that's why we didn't jump on it just immediately. We knew that it would take a period of time, and so we've come across a few surprises and a few hiccups, but we've also encountered some things that were really positive and didn't cost nearly as much as we thought. So it's given us some room to do some other things that we wanted to do. I just left the marketing department looking at new sign options, and so we'll start seeing all that come together here in the next month and a half.
We got some interior remodeling.
We've got some interior stuff going on. So there, we're like any other building, any kind of a building. If you have an outdoor problem, you have an indoor problem before long. And so, some of those things have been rectified, and we just have not had the opportunity to go through and revamp and clean up. So, over the next few months, if you come by and you do a tour, you'll start to see that change interior, inside,
And we're also trying to do all of that while we're still functioning, which is that's another thing in itself.
Well, at least we're not dodging, buckets full of water.
Yeah,
so that's always
a good thing.
It's a positive thing. As far as the warehouse goes across town, we are working on inventory processes and refining that, as always, as you should be doing. It's what we do here. It's what we're always doing, is we're looking for continuous ways to improve. Sometimes those things are just real simple, and sometimes you make them really hard, and then you find out it was really simple,
Yeah.
So a lot of what we've got going on is geared towards efficiency.
Cool. Well, that kind of lends to, we have the Crazy Days coming up here in 2 weeks, just about. And a lot of that stuff that we're doing over at our other warehouse, we came across some leathers that we just had, or we were like, well, we have another Gaylord of this. Let's put it on the Crazy Days. So keep an eye out for that. We'll have some pretty cool stuff.
Well, when you buy leather like we do, sometimes we're just as surprised as you are as to what we find.
Yeah.
And largely that's a positive. I guess it's sort of like buying a leather bundle. Sometimes you get what you want. Sometimes you get a little bit of what you don't want. But usually you're overall you're satisfied.
Yeah, you got to deal with it.
You're overall satisfied.
An example of that would one of our vendors that we buy a certain oil tan from. We buy it from regularly, and just every few months or whatever it is that we need, called us and wanted to sell us some of that leather at an extremely reduced price. So my natural inclination is to say, why? And he said, well, I sold a bunch of that leather to this customer who's used it for years. They got the leather in. The company's changed hands. They don't want to use it anymore. Okay. Well, how much do you have? 6,000 feet. I said, okay, we'll take it because it's a regular line leather. We buy it anyway. So we get the leather in, and comes in a great big 4 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot cardboard box with some piled on the top. Got it in there, and half of it was 1-inch strips that were 6 feet long. Didn't look to me like sides of oil tan leather, so I called the guy. I said, hey, well, we're supposed to be 6,000 feet of leather, right? He says, yeah. He says, well, it's about half of it's in strips. And he didn't know it. So he called up the vendor or the people that he had sold it to originally. And they said, yeah, we cut up part of it. Oh, well, so it goes to your saying, you don't always get what you think you're going to get. And we were able to work out the deal where we got the leather at a good price, and the strips, well, we just had to deal with that. But it was okay between working it out. And that's how our business model works. We take what we get. And because of that, we're able to pass on a lot of prices that are really pretty hard to meet.
Well, we had some customer questions come in that I
Ooh.
thought were pretty good. So the first one here, if you weren't selling leather, what would you be doing? Would it have something to do with leather?
Personally, I wouldn't be doing anything because I'm 73, going to be 74, and I might be tooling some
Okay.
and taking some time off and I'd probably be going rock hunting every now and then. And
Playing ping pong,
Not
playing a
taking
little pool.
time off.
yeah, I started playing
down in
pool
Arkansas
again, so
digging crystals
did
out of
that,
the mud.
ping pong. Yep, that's about it.
All right. Rusty?
Well, it's kind of a loaded question, because I got into leather because of the marketing crash in '08. I mean, that was when I got out of the construction world and got into leather. And so I came into the leather world, and about 2 years in, I decided pretty quickly that no matter what I did from that point forward, it probably would have something to do with leather. And, I don't know, maybe doing what we, being the person that Springfield Leather buys from, the person that goes out looking for job lots,
Okay.
and I say that because the hunt is always the most exciting part, and then when you find those little treasures, and like I said, you win some, you lose some.
Sure.
Dan, what would you be doing?
What would I be doing? Well, I have a background in journalism and a background in public administration, so two very different things. I did both of those for a while, and just it wasn't my cup of tea, really. And I came in here because I started up leather as a hobby and made it a career. So I probably, if I had my dream job, something with emergency management and disaster related stuff. I've always been fascinated by that stuff. So something like that. But I'm happy with where I'm at. Tony?
If I could do anything that I wanted to do and I'd travel with family, I'd officiate sports all year long.
Yeah, you're just nuts.
That's my stress relief.
That is a no-win
Because
situation.
it's not a full-time job.
I started coaching my daughter's first and second grade basketball team, and we had our first game last Saturday. We lost 13-4, but it was stressful because the kids weren't stressful. The parents were stressful.
Oh, yeah. The
But,
parents are ridiculous.
Adults are the worst.
Yeah, oh my gosh. It's the first
I'm
and
sorry,
second.
adults.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go.
All right, so this other one that came in, so we have a lot of ostrich around. A lot.
Yeah.
So
Kind of a lot.
buy ostrich. This is what I'm saying. But what are the different uses for it?
Oh my gosh, that's kind of a never-ending.
Well, we're not talking. You're not talking hides here, I assume.
No, I'm just talking like, the scrap bags that we have a lot of, the ostrich legs, the necks.
And hides.
Yeah, you can.
Well, you can make anything you want out of an ostrich hide. I've seen some jackets that sold for oh my gosh, you remember those ones that we see every year? Those expensive.
I say it's funny you should ask.
Oh, well, look at that.
And that's nice. You got a belt
Belt.
out of a full-length piece. That's really nice. Then you got a
Really
piece
cool
together biker wallet
there.
That's quite nice.
So these pieces are out of the scrap bag specifically. We've got the remnants, the 2-pound remnants. I gave it to the production department. I said, hey, what can you make out of this? And I think this is a piece of embossed ostrich, maybe.
Well, yeah, but you can buy,
Yeah.
You can buy a hide, and as a matter of fact, that's what a lot of inmates do. They'll buy a half of hide,
Mhm.
and they'll make a couple of belts, and a belt will pay for,
Mm-hmm.
1 or 2 belts pay for a hide.
That's
The
neat.
smooth grain ostrich, use it like cowhide.
Mhm.
I mean, that's a smooth grain ostrich.
Darn good print.
You've got
Mhm.
money clips, wallets, card cases. Oh, gosh, the list could go on and on and on.
Well, even doing a bike ride and folding over your edges that are there. Let's see if I can zoom.
So I think the thing with a lot of, the exotics is people see it and they're like, oh, that's really neat. What would I use it for?
Well, that's part of being creative and using your imagination and sitting down and taking a little time to think and asking other people that might have some contributing ideas.
Like you.
Yeah, sure. Or you, or Rusty, or Tony.
I think the biggest thing that you run into with ostrich is the back of it can be pretty flanky. Once in a while, there'll be vendors that bring it in and have the back of it cleaned up pretty good.
Mostly pretty flashy.
90% of what you're going to find, but I've got a customer now that has found a source that he's been trying to get us to take on. And I've looked at a couple of the hides, and they are nice. The challenge that you get into is once they get that flankiness gone, you're pretty thin.
Yeah.
And once you're thin on the back of the quills. And once you're thin on the back of the quill, it doesn't take much. And if you cut that quill will come out, and now you've got a hole.
Yeah.
So it can create some challenges. You'll notice, like on these pieces, these are neck pieces where the quills are pretty small. And you know, some of them, the further out that they get, you'll find that that's, you know, different areas of the hide. It will have different pieces. Yeah, every one of them is going to be a little bit different. But again, the challenge is dealing with quills. And
right now, our ostrich bags are just pretty doggone glorious.
The more you buy, the more you save.
Quills.
Yes. Yeah.
They are really good.
And there's some pretty good sized pieces in there too that you could definitely, you know, incorporate into something like this. Or, you know, moose wallet.
There's pieces you can get a full size back out of for that.
You're not going to get a belt out of it though, unless you do piecework.
But we did that. We did do a video with a Ranger style belt where we were doing the little inlay.
You could pull that off. Yeah. You can do it. You just got to get a little bit more creative with it.
I've seen bags. Well, I make the bags. I've put bags together where you could make a belt out of 3 pieces. Once in a while, one will come out where you can make it out of 2. Mm-hmm. But usually 3 pieces. That's pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm. All depends on how big the feller is.
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
So
but I think you can. I haven't done it, but I wonder if you can take. We may try it with a piece of ostrich that's flanky on the back and lay it down with tokenol.
Well, sure,
and see how that lays down and just stays pasted.
You will.
It won't stay.
The other thing
as you use it.
The other thing is that if you're going to do that, you're not going to glue it to something.
Yeah.
You probably are not going to get the glue to bond through the tokenol or something like that very well. Yeah. It would be like gluing to a pasted back of a double shoulder. It's designed more to be finished and seen rather than it would be.
But if you took like Mission Pig or the Garment Pig and glued it to it,
if you put it together and glue it, then you're going to be pretty good set. The edges will be the part that give you the challenge. And to be honest with you, if you really want it to be as good as you can get it, put the glue on, kind of heavy, let it absorb into the fibers.
Yeah.
Then once you're ready to actually use it, put another layer of glue on, because what will happen is you will mat it up those first batch of layers.
Right.
Then once you get it in there, either roll it out real firm or beat it out real firm. And then the only problem that you'll have is just making sure that your edges don't show that flank. But you will have begun to glue that flankiness down once you've cleaned up what you can off of it. Just a little bit of prep work, a little bit of time, will make it easier. I'm not going to say it's going to cure the problem.
And that's just the natural part of the animal.
It's just the animal. Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, it's not the animal necessarily. It's the characteristics of the leather.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So
because we see it in a lot.
Yeah. So what would you say is the most difficult type of leather to procure, and why is it horse?
I don't know that I would have said that, but
I was going to say, finding rattlesnake right now.
Rattlesnake's probably one of that. An elephant is very difficult.
Elephant is a little challenging right now. They're still getting the panels, but we've got a fair batch of that's being worked up. It just it goes in cycles,
Sure.
And most people would realize why elephant or any other exotic is hard to get. And even the rattlesnake. It's just limited quantity.
Well, and maybe not even so. I was gonna say not even so much the horse. It's like horse fronts and stuff like that. That's not bad. The hard part, or the more time consuming, would be the shell part, because you're only getting 2 pieces off of a horse.
Maybe.
If it's clean enough.
Well, so the horse that we're in negotiations with now about having done, they don't even pull the shell off of it. They actually leave it on the horse butt because obviously, most people know that the shell cordovan is actually a membrane behind the horse butt. And so if it's not going to yield real well, they can leave it to that or leave it with it and it'll be finished the same, which gives you a much greater, girth to the horse butts rather than just that little whoop on the end. It now is more of a solid piece.
Yeah, and we can get it. It's just that you got to want to, and you got to have money.
Sure.
You got to go to the right tannery and everything else, but But I think pretty much, don't you think, Rusty, that around here or with our customers, everybody associates horse leather with the horse butts?
Yeah, largely, or shell. Well, and you can tie them together there. Yeah, the horse fronts. A lot of times people don't realize that it's horse.
You wouldn't know it.
You wouldn't know. Yeah, extremely durable. Can be really, really thin.
Yep.
Makes a great boot lining.
No, it makes
So
fantastic.
it gets used for that.
Well, let's say a customer picks up a leather jacket at a garage sale. $5. How would they know it's real leather? What would you tell them to look for?
Well, first of all, look at the tag if there's one there.
Well,
I'm with him. I'm with you, fellers. Yeah, look for something obvious first.
Sure.
Yeah, and other than that, depending on how good of an imitation it is, I mean, you just have to know.
Lamb, goat, sheep, they'll have hair follicles. So if you really want to know, and you got to know, you can get down and really look at it. If you can see that there are hair follicles or that there's some sort of texture to it, pretty good likely. It really is challenging because the fabric and textile industry has done a nice job. I mean, when Lindsay went looking for furniture, we ended up buying a faux leather because the leather that we had before, it was a little bit more challenging to keep clean. It was this, it was that. And, so she settled on these, and they've really done a good job these days.
Okay.
It's getting harder and harder. The other thing, though, is that a lot of times you may in the future, but I don't know you're going to run into a lot of quote unquote leather jackets at a yard sale that aren't leather jackets of some sort. Now, if you really want to know, just cut a hole in it, look on the inside.
Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah, that is one thing that you mentioned too, because if there's a tear or a small scratch or something like that, as there is in a yard
your
sale
microfabrics aren't gonna scratch. They won't have like a cat scratch on leather. It'll pull up the grains a little bit. Those sort of things will give you some indicators.
Okay.
And I do know that a lot of people and I do it too. If I go somewhere and I see, I've been and seen mink coats that were at flea markets and contemplated buying it to cut it apart to use the furs as and I know that we have opportunities to do that. We had an opportunity and I tried to talk him into it, but he turned me down. It was about 90,000 tons of airplane seats that we could have cut a small panel out of each one of them. I don't know why he didn't want to do it. It was the part that you sit on, so it's nice and smooth.
Well, if I'm getting ready to start a project, complete newbie walking in the store, how do I know which kind of leather I need? If I'm making let's say I want to make a wallet or a small bag or purse.
That's easy. Ask us. Just ask somebody. Ask somebody that you trust.
The stuff that we have out there right now is really pretty knowledgeable, and they're very good about, like, you let us into a wallet, but they're very good about asking, what are you wanting to make?
Well,
figuring that part out for us.
With things the way they are, the social media thing, emails, text, they can email you. They can email Dan. They can email Rusty.
They can text you.
I don't have an email.
We can get you his cell phone number to text.
Actually, I do, and you're welcome to email me. And
it's Dan at Spring.
We even have a form, I think, on the website that's Ask Kevin.
But when you do that, that's not a bad question, really, because if you want to do that, if you're going to make something and you haven't done a lot of leather work before, and you decide you want to make project X, give as much information as you can to whoever you ask. That would be extremely helpful because most of the time, the person that you ask is going to have some questions for you. And, one question, people don't think about this, but depending on the project you're making, I'm going to ask, are you going to make more than one? And I'm going to ask, how big a concern is money here? Because I want you to be successful. That's what I want more than anything else, is to be successful. And I have a good idea of what you would need to make your project. And if I don't, I will ask Rusty, or I will ask Denny or Liz or somebody else that I think has had the experience in that kind of thing, and we'll get it together for you and let you know. There is a difficulty, depending on where you are, if you come into our store, or if you go into a different leather store in your part of the country, and you are working with a really super nice customer service guy there, and you ask them, what do I need to do this? You just want to be careful to make sure you ask, have you ever done anything like this before? Because if you don't, you're going to get a lot of hearsay information. And while that's okay for many things, it's just not necessarily going to save you the grief that you want to save.
So we always tell customers, 20%. If you're ordering 5 feet of leather, get 20% extra. You don't know what you're gonna have left over, and you might need, or might make a mistake, might mess it up, somehow like that. So I think if you're looking to make bags or something like that, the bundles are always a great option because you're always gonna have enough leather in there to do a tote bag or.
Well, think about this, Dan. If you're a new person and you've decided, I've got this nice pair of ostrich boots. I just love them. I want to have a wallet that's made out of ostrich. And I see, looking around, Springfield Leather got some wrong. Well, how could you possibly know, or how could anybody in the store know that everything that Rusty told you about the edges are going to apply? They're not going to tell you that because probably they don't know. They just probably don't know. Maybe some of them do, but more than likely, they don't. And when you get into that and you start putting your project together and you end up with an edge that you're not happy with, it's because you didn't ask the right person.
Sure.
So, that's key.
Okay. So we've had a couple questions about patent leather. The original patent leather, you see patent leather shoes, all this type of stuff. What would be there's not a whole lot of people making shoes out there, nowadays. What would somebody use patent leather for besides
an old person's belt?
You can do a belt. I've seen a few purses that are made out of like the centerpiece, like the gusset, or getting to the gusset would be a leather, and then the center part being patent leather.
And what makes patent leather and not just plastic coated leather?
Well, I mean, so I did some research when you threw out the questions, and so do you want the long answer or you want the short answer? Rusty, I think, knows me well enough that I'm going to discover what the answers are. I really think that patent leather may be called patent leather with how many patents were made from the patent part of the leather. So I think even before it left England, there was 3 patents that were put on it with different ways to do it. The first guy, it was some letter that was put out, Birmingham, England, and then Seth Boyden is who brought it into America, brought the idea from a German hat that he had, and he reverse engineered it. And his was with linseed oil and other lacquers to lay it down. And now, as plastics were made, now most of it is PU coated. That patent leather is now today that we know, because it's not. I mean, linseed oil and acrylics is going to take a while to really work into the leather. So I think most of the stuff that we have is going to be PU coated.
Yeah, and the big usage for it probably is shoes, but not in this country so much. I mean, some, but overseas, Europe, they still use patent leather in shoes, use a fair bit of it. You think about parade gear, bands, school bands and other things, uniforms and other uniform issues. They use some patent leather. Police gear.
Used a lot of times in military dress gear.
I think
if I had my say, it would probably be a metallic green banana seed.
and the really use for it is like with it being PU coated now is it is water resistant. I mean, extremely water resistant. You can buff it back out. It doesn't. Now with the plastic part of it, scratching it with something that's sharp, you're going to scratch it. But like somebody scratching with their fingernails is probably not going to happen.
And it's just like anything else. Like when the advent of chrome tan leather, it's just a quicker way to get leather out the door. This PU coating, it doesn't necessarily make it any, worse or better, or It's just
just as a
evolution.
side point to that, the PU leather, which stands for polyurethane, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that there's a lot of polyurethane leather out there that isn't patent leather.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a laminate. Yeah, they use.
The reason that they use it is because it stays flexible.
Yeah.
Yep.
So in the
And they can put it on a finished split.
right in the construction industry, you use a polyurethane based silicones around front door windows on businesses like this because it allows the heat and the contraction cool and hot, and it allows it to move. Same way with the leather, it'll allow it to be stretched and pulled and flexed. And so, for instance, on a shoe at the ball of the foot where you bend, you want that out there on that edges. It needs to be flexible because, for instance, if you take a pair of dress shoes that weren't designed to have a finish put on the outside of them, you wear them until they need a new set of soles. This is speaking from experience. And you put the new soles on, and then you spray them down with a quick shine, like Masters or Neat Lack or something. In about 3 months of wearing them, only on weekends, so to speak, right at the ball of the foot, it becomes brittle and it cracks away and flakes off very minutely until within about, like I said, depending on the amount of wear and usage, you eventually don't have any finish in those spots anymore.
Well, and another PU coated leather that we'd have would be the crosshatch Saffiano stuff that we have, and a lot of high-end bag makers are using it because whenever you put that product out, one, scratch resistant,
Very flexible, easy to clean.
So it's like if you're making a bag and you want it to look good for the first maybe year of it, PU bags are going to be where it's at. If you want one to last a lifetime and to get that patina as it goes on.
I have a new business venture. We could make a bag named the PU bag line. PU bags. And every other bag gets a little extra spray of the PU.
That's a wonderful idea.
We got to
there's a lot of people that think laminated, but that's not leather. I don't like that. That's not real leather. Well, it is real leather. It's just got a laminate on top of it. Well, I don't want to work with that stuff. Hey, tell that to Coach and Prada and Dooney and Burke and all these other expensive.
You look at Prada, they have trademarked the name Saffiano.
Yeah.
And it is all PU coated. And they're using it and selling how expensive a bag?
One thing, just as a side point of note, we've got a bunch of that polyurethane coat in a pebble grain. And we're going to put something together and be able to offer that. I think that should be exciting because there's a lot of people that want to have a pebble grain handbag.
Yeah.
This would be a good option.
Yeah, and to those people that are saying that PU coated leather is not real leather, well, patent leather had the same kind of criticisms back in the day when it was started.
Same as chrome tan leather had the people who complained.
Just,
I mean,
it's
and now they've even got it's a leather. It's done with what? It's not done with chromium salts. It's is it done with formaldehyde?
Yes, there is one that is.
It's just extreme. It's like white as this sheet of paper. It's toolable, but boy, not so much.
Not happily toolable.
It doesn't burnish well,
but it doesn't have chromium in it.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. People can't have any chrome in this leather. Well, okay.
But the nice thing though is that there's so many people. Unfortunately, not tannery. Yes, some tanneries that are left in this country, but a lot of that is in other countries. So they are starting to step up to the demand of the vegetable tanned upholsteries and the vegetable tan chap leathers and the vegetable tan. And so we are starting to see a lot of that become more available, and people, that use lasers and don't have them vented and exhausted really, appreciate the ability to get thinner, more flexible leathers that they can then use on their laser without having to worry about, the extra fumes and such.
Sure. I think there's two big questions that always come up in leatherwork. Is it real leather?
Yeah.
And I'm going to say it. If you use a sewing machine, is it still handmade?
It is. Did these come into play? Were they yours?
Yeah, I think that's the two big things. Is it genuine leather? Yeah, if you look up the text of what is genuine, truly, is it truly leather? Yes, it may be. Is it top grain?
Is it corrected grain?
Yeah.
Is it a split?
Is it a full grain?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of other questions that go in. Is Herman? Would you say? I'm not going to say it.
No.
Next question, Dan.
Well, that's all I got.
I was going to say, I think we did a pretty good job. We covered it.
Well, hey, I want to address the last one.
Okay.
How do I make money off a leather bundle? Again, I think it's an easy answer. First thing is you just got to have the right attitude. That's it. It's how you go into it. And if you're determined to make money off your leather work, then if you can't make money off one of our leather bundles, I think there's something wrong. You just got to focus on what you can do. If you feel that you just hate all the leather in there and none of it's any good for nothing, well, I'll tell you what. Make some things, give them to some kids, give them to some friends as presents. That'll start them talking about you and your generosity and what a wonderful person you are. And you're going to find out that one of those guys is going to say, I really like that thing you gave me, but my wife wants one and she wonders if you could do it in purple. Well, there you go. You're off and running.
I think it was a lot shorter answer. It says, Kevin, how do I make money off of a leather bundle? Buy one.
There you go. Start out simple.
Buy one.
That's the first.
Well, you see people and like, I wanted this and I wanted that and I want to be able to this. How do you this? How do you that? And they can get so frustrated when the answer is just practice.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what it is. How do you know whether you can make money off of something you've never seen?
Sure.
Or that you've never attempted? So, unfortunately, there is a bit of a trust in there. But, at the same time, the person that's answering the question is the person that makes 95% of it. Mm-hmm. And so, ultimately, his goal is for you to be successful. Our goal is for you to be successful. So, you know what? Buy one. Try it. If it's just the worst thing you've ever seen, call Dan.
Yeah, and what's the worst thing you can do?
There
you go.
I'll give you a tour. His number's on the outside of the door. Just take a picture and you'll have it. Just share it on social media.
We don't leave anybody hanging.
No. Well, now we hang a few. But
well, my email is Liz at Springfield Leather.
Right. Well, that goes back to the practice part.
Sure.
I practiced a lot of my tooling and a lot of. I remember giving my mom some coasters that I tooled for Christmas, and I was looking at them the other day, and I was like, "Oh, those are terrible."
Right now, you're trying to sneak them off.
Yeah, but she thought they were the greatest thing in the world because you spent time doing this, and it's
and we've said this a number of times. There's nothing more valuable than something that you've made that you can then give to somebody. Sure. Or that you can use yourself, and you see it on social, especially around the holidays. Buy local, buy from your friends. Don't beat them up on the price. There's a lot to be said with that.
Take that really nasty piece of ugly leather that I do put in there, or try to, and
think of your closest friend.
Yeah,
and then make them a mouse pad.
Yeah, right.
Make it a big one. Hey, you can trim it to whatever size you want.
Here's a cowhide. Just trim that down the way you like it. Well, hey, there we go.
Well, I think, I want to say one other thing along those lines of, we'll get the questions on videos or patterns. Can I do that? Sure you can. Give it a shot. Could we all wear lapel microphones in here to do this? We sure could. But that one microphone right there is a whole lot easier. And it can save Kevin all the time from walking in here with 1 minute to spare and still be somewhat.
Now hang on a minute. I'm reading here. It says no sound.
That's what I had to walk back.
No audio. Sound. No sound.
That was what I had to walk back over to my desk and hit the microphone button.
I know, right? So Stryker says Tony had one job.
And I was getting Justin set up on a template and all that. I was juggling, and I did forget to hit the one button. So. Turns out Kevin was on time and the microphone still wasn't on. But I think that's kind of what it is. Give it a try. And what Kevin might even think is ugly in an ugly bundle, I've had people get it and go, I was looking for the ugly piece. I didn't get it. You remember that leopard print cowhide that we had that was green and orange?
Oh, yeah.
That was just, people were just like, oh, that is so hideous. Elizabeth, the girl that we talked about at the beginning.
The girl made a beach hat. It was cool.
Yeah.
And she came in, and I think she bought the last 10 sides that we had because she could not keep the product that she was making out of it on the table. She was selling it through it so fast. It was popular in Arkansas.
A couple of years ago, we left the country with some friends. We took an Alaskan cruise. When I say we left the country, we never went
left
into open water or anything special, and there were more bear sightings in Missouri than there were in Alaska when I was there. But so my buddy says, hey, I think it would be cool if you guys could make us all new passport covers. Well, you know when that leather came around was right about that time. And so guess who has a passport cover that is like a fluorescent hunter orange? And
Neon yellow.
he was proud to flip it out there, though.
You didn't lose it. He didn't lose his.
No.
Well, cool. Yeah. So that's all the questions that I compiled.
Okay.
But I would say to you guys,
Yeah.
keep updated on our
Give this guy some questions to ask us.
Yeah, crazy day stuff.
Yeah, make them hard.
For him
Yeah.
to ask.
I want to
not
ask
for us
Dan
to
a
answer.
question.
Yeah.
Or just put big long words in there and say, hey, ask Rusty and Kevin this question.
Yeah,
Don't
there
involve
you go.
any math.
Okay. Well, you heard him. So,
Pretty good.
Are you
All
coming
right,
to Tool
we're
on
good.
Friday, Kevin?
Pardon?
Are you going to come do trading cards? Denny's still gone. Are you going to come do trading cards?
I think I'm supposed to, aren't I?
Well, you're supposed to. That's what I was asking. Are you? I was going to see if you're going to try to weasel your way out of it.
I'd love to weasel my way out of it because I got so much going on with the rock show and the leather sorting. But why don't you? We'll see what happens.
I tried to do a trade. Well, I didn't try it. Rusty and I did a trading card video together.
Oh, that'd be
think now
worth it. I could sit back and watch on that one.
People did, and I think we just sat back and watched.
That's
too.
pretty much what happened. Yeah.
That's what Rusty and I did. We just sat back and watched the comments. Chevy says he has a question. We'll ask it on the after party. So if you got more questions, come over to Twitch for the after party. Friday we will do the trading cards, unless it says that we won't do trading cards. And tomorrow I'm going to try to do live shopping.
Maybe
By
I'll do a
myself.
circle.
A circle trading card.
No, just a circle.
Okay.
Well, I have one thing to say. One, William Martin, we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And Darcy, get back to work.
Yeah.